Recently, I've been playing Wytchwood. I saw this game in an article and it was kind of featured as this kind of, I don't know, successor to Stardew Valley or a game that is in tune with that sort of style. And I love Stardew Valley, so I thought, well, I should pick it up. And as I wrote the review for it, as I played the game, I kept thinking to myself, I hope this isn't one of those games that just gets overshadowed by a lot of other games. And when I say overshadowed, I don't mean by the community or the media, I mean by me. Because this does have a lot of components, this game, that are really fun and really great. Witchwood is an adventure puzzle game. And if you noticed, I left out a key component. When you usually hear the word adventure, action is also usually implied, but no, there is very little action in this game. But definitely a lot of puzzles and a lot of adventures. Now, the puzzles that are construed in the game are not your typical like level puzzles or platforming puzzles. No, it's more about collecting different things to craft different items and potions and tinctures and even like equipment to help you progress through the game. There is no real combat in the game. When you're dealt with like an enemy or an obstacle that you have to overcome, you have to either like trap it by creating some bait in a trap. Use a different like tool like a net or a shovel, or create a potion that like puts them to sleep or something like that. Outside of that, though, there is no real puzzle. That's like the main mechanic of the game. No real combat, no real action, which is fine. Games don't have to be just 100 miles an hour straight action. And I will say, as far as the game itself, you do play a witch who has been sleeping for a long time, possibly in a coma. But when you come to, you have full control of the witch, and you're awoken by a goat of all things, and the goat just kind of just destroys your little hut, your little house there, and you have to go catch him and confront him. Along the way, you're kind of prompted to collect a few items to create certain things, and eventually also get her like spell book and start to relearn spells. You realize that the goat has been like, he has a curse on him, or I can't remember exactly what the deal was, but the goat, who seems like a normal goat, is actually a talking goat and is a very intelligent goat and leads you to start this path that you go down. You discover after a few, say missions, if you will, quests, that your whole goal as this witch was to bring back this princess who's been sleeping, and that this princess is your daughter. And when I say princess, I don't mean that in the like royal sense. I just mean like she's, the same sleeping beauty kind of image that you get. And you're trying to find a way to bring her back from her deep slumber. And so the game kind of takes off from there. And there's so many great aspects of the actual story. The writing is amazing. The NPCs, a lot of them are very relatable, really likable. I don't know how many times in the game that I've actually laughed out loud. The banter between the goat and the witch are hilarious. There's so much like sarcasm put out through the game. Like, I think the writing is top notch. I think a lot of the mechanics of the game, like I was mentioning, the kind of twisted way that you have to solve a puzzle, I think that's also really engaging and interesting. But my big problem with the game, if I'm being honest, is the pacing. It's very slow. Like, it kind of just drags on, and not where you want it to, because I think the star of the show is the writing, is the dialogue, is the story that they're trying to tell you. But a lot of times, you kind of get wrapped up in these quests where you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to do, or you're trying to find certain components. And where a good break would be with that would be some sort of action or some sort of fighting to get to somewhere. There is none of that. So you just kind of find yourself roaming around looking for components and trying to like really read into the quest and to understand exactly what you need. There's very little prompts in the game, I guess, is probably my biggest complaint. Especially when you pair that with the lack of action. And so it really just kind of drags the pacing down of the game. I think this is a really great game, though. In so many ways, it's not for me. And I really do hope that the team who developed the game is able to expand upon this with the sequel or maybe kind of a spin-off, but just to give it more light, because we don't often see this kind of creativity in video games, especially from a writing aspect, with humor so involved in the game. And it's not like that kind of humor that is typically in video games. It's a very, very funny kind of writing that just, yeah, cracked me up. And the character development and the mechanics in general. It's a super, super creative game. And I applaud them for all of that. I would just say, like, this isn't a game for somebody who enjoys action. Not really a game for someone who enjoys a lot of customization, because neither one of those are really there. I found no game-breaking bugs or anything like that. My last critique would just be the price itself. I think it sits a little bit too rich for a lot of people's blood with an indie game that they've not really heard of. And make no mistake, like, it's sitting around the same price as like Death's Door or Hades, and these are tried and true games. I mean, both of them games of the year possibilities. It depends who you ask, but amazing games that are, I would say, worth that and sit at that echelon. And I'm just not sure Wytchwood does. I think it's a really great game. It's really fun. But I don't know, I think they're asking a little bit too much out of it. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you. Please like, subscribe, do all of that stuff. Take care.